When the reception center is activated, Maria needs to make sure ESS responders get the forms they need and collect, distribute, and file completed forms. By being organized, her team can also help families find each other, help suppliers get paid, and help colleagues gather statistics. These statistics show approximately what resources have been used so emergency managers can estimate the funding and resources required for the response. To give an idea of how much paperwork there is, one family will likely have an ESS file and a copy of the referral form for every supplier needed. Imagine if there are 50 families who were evacuated due to an apartment fire. Maria would be collecting at least 100 forms. Because Maria and her team have planned for the location and setup of the documentation unit, they are ready to open during a response. But what would they do with all that paperwork? This is ESS Documentation Unit explained during a disaster. Meet the Singhs. They are one of 10 families whose houses got flooded and who were directed to the reception center by the fire chief. Before the Singhs arrived, Maria and her ESS team followed their plan and were able to set up the reception center. During this time, Maria handed out ESS files, referral forms, ESS rate sheets, inquiry cards, and photocopies of the host family for billeting forms to the registration and referral worker. After handing out the referral forms, Maria also recorded the form numbers and the name of the registration and referral worker onto the referral record. Keep in mind that if there were a runner getting the forms, the registration and referral worker's name should still have been recorded and not the runner's name. Just as a side note, the completed copy of the invoice for the host family billeting form by the host family never gets returned to the reception center. If they are used, the host family completes the invoice, then mails them directly to the Provincial Territorial ESS office along with a white copy of the referral form. And another thing, during Maria's shift, if there is a shift change or any outstanding issues or major decisions made, Maria needs to note them on her position log to help the person who works in this position after her shift. Back to the story. After the registration and referral worker registers the things, she brought back the completed forms to Maria. Maria received an ESS file and 4 referral forms. There are 4 parts to the ESS file, which is used to register evacuees. The yellow copy, white and pink copies, which are also known as the flimsies, and card file. If the ESS file was not complete, then it would need to be returned to the registration and referral worker to be completed. Usually, these forms are double-checked before they come to the documentation unit. First, Maria checks the returned portion of the ESS file for accuracy. The yellow copy would have gone to the family. The ESS file is completed fully, so she separates the card copy from the flimsies. The card copy becomes a file to hold all of the paperwork relating to that family. The 2 flimsies are put in the search and reply box and forwarded to the search and reply unit or whoever is performing that function as soon as possible so that families can be matched. It's a good idea for the documentation unit to set up for doing search and reply because most communities don't always have enough responders to staff a separate search and reply position. Maria notices that one of the Singh children has a different last name than Dad. This means she needs to create a cross-reference form, also known as a dummy file. The dummy file will be filed under the child's last name, but the only thing that will be in the file is a note that says the ESS file is filed under Singh. Moving on, Maria notices that the follow-up box is checked off, which means follow-up is needed. It is important to note that the ESS responder who took the registration or the registration supervisor is the one who does the actual follow-up and not the documentation unit worker. To make sure that the file is flagged for follow-up, Maria takes a follow-up card and places it into the card file. The next thing Maria needs to do is to record the information from the ESS file and all 4 referral forms on the registration and referral statistics record. By doing this, Her colleagues will know approximately how many resources have been used. Her reception center manager also has to report the statistics to the EOC on a daily basis if it's a large response. The last thing Maria needs to do with the ESS file is to file the card file alphabetically into the ESS file box. The steps for processing an ESS file, along with the flowchart, can be found in the Reception Center Operational Guidelines. From time to time during the shift, Maria should check in with herself and any other responders that may be helping out in the documentation unit to make sure everyone is drinking enough water, eating healthy food, and taking breaks. As the responder responsible for making sure the documentation unit functions properly, Maria can always ask for help if she needs it. Responding to a disaster is a team effort. So now let's look at the 4 referral forms in the SINGS ESS file that Maria needs to check for accuracy. The first referral form that was returned had void written across all the copies. Maria records the voided referral form on the ESS referral form record and files it into the folder marked Voided Referral Forms. The second referral form that was returned had cancelled written across all the copies. Maria records the cancelled referral form on the ESS referral form record and files it into the SINGS card file. The third referral form that was returned was missing information, so Maria had to give it back to the Registration and Referrals Unit Supervisor. The fourth referral form that was returned only had the pink and green copies. The white and yellow copies were given to the SINGS. Maria then checks the form for any mistakes and that it's filled out completely. Everything was correct and complete, so Maria separates the pink and green copies. She puts the pink copy in a box marked Provincial Territorial ESS Office. In BC, it's EMBC. Then she records the information onto the Registration and Referral Statistics record. When the ESS office receives the white copy that the supplier submits, they compare it with the pink copy to make sure the information is the same before reimbursing the supplier. The registration and referral worker mentioned that someone accidentally walked off with an extra referral form that stuck to another one, and they have already reported it to their direct supervisor. The registration and referral worker had taken down the lost referral form number, so Maria was able to record it on the ESS referral form record. The next ESS file that was returned is showing as a restricted file. After the evacuee is registered by the registration worker, the ESS file is usually given directly to the registration supervisor, who hand-delivers it to the Search and Reply Unit Supervisor if Search and Reply is activated. In this case, Search and Reply is not activated, so Maria creates a duplicate copy of the ESS file. She writes the first and family name on it, writes a note to See Supervisor, and files the dummy file into the ESS file box. Maria does not record the information onto the statistics record. Maria then stores the original restricted file in a separate box. Let's say the response has been extended. Maria's shift is 8 hours and it's coming to an end. Emilio is supposed to take over for her, but he hasn't arrived yet. Maria lets her supervisor know, and since Maria can stay a little longer, she calls her family to let them know that she'll be coming home late. It turns out that Emilio was caught in traffic. When Emilio arrives and signs in, Maria provides him with a briefing or update of what's been going on and what may need follow-up. Before Maria leaves, she notes that there has been a shift change in the position log. Next, Emilio scans the ESS files for any follow-up cards. He sees one for the Singh family, so he goes to check with the Registration and Referral Unit Supervisor as to whether the follow-up has been done. It looks like they haven't heard back from the family yet, so the Registration and Referral Unit Supervisor writes the date, action taken, and initials in the follow-up required section. This will ensure each responder working with the file has all the information. If the follow-up was done already, then Emilio would check off completed and write in the date completed on the ESS file. Once all the needs are met, the follow-up card is removed from the ESS file and reused for other files. Emilio also notices that he is running low on referral forms and there are no more referral forms anywhere in the reception center. He submits a resource request through logistics to request more forms from the Provincial Territorial ESS office. But in the meantime, he checks with neighboring ESS teams as to whether they have any extra forms he can use. If it were still a small activation with only the reception center manager, a registration and referral worker, and himself without a logistics branch, then Emilio would have requested the forms from his reception center manager. Emilio does not photocopy the forms. Now the ESS files are starting to pile up, and Emilio is having difficulty keeping up with processing the forms. The priority is to match family and friends as soon as possible, so it's important to make sure the flimsies are removed, put in the search and reply box, and forwarded to search and reply. If a search and reply unit is not set up, then Emilio may be asked to do the matching. Everything else can wait if needed. Emilio could also ask his supervisor to get more help, or he could see if he could change the way he handles the paperwork in order to speed up the process. Emilio goes back to the ESS files that are coming in. He notices a change of information form. He then tears off the white and yellow copies and places them in the search and reply tray. It looks like it's a contact information change, so Emilio makes the changes on the ESS file and files the pink copy in the ESS file in the filing box. A referrals worker has come to Emilio asking for the Sing ESS file because they have returned for more services. Emilio fills out the information on a blank line of the ESS out card, then puts the card in place of the file in the box and gives the file to the referrals worker. Later on, Emilio sorts more paperwork and finds an ESS file without the flimsies attached. Emilio looks inside the ESS file and finds that there are completed referral copies that haven't been separated. It appears that this family had returned to the reception center for more services. Emilio looks into the ESS files box and he finds an ESS out card for that ESS file. He sorts the referral forms, records the statistical information on the statistics record, then he records the date in on the ESS out card and replaces the ESS out card with the ESS file in the box. Next, there is an inquiry card in the incoming paperwork. Since there is no inquiry unit set up at this reception center, inquiry cards are processed by the documentation unit. Emilio reviews the card and realizes that this is an inquiry about the whereabouts of the Singh family. Emilio fills out the information identified in the Reply for Office Only section, and because he has some time, he calls back the person inquiring about the Singhs and lets them know of the Singhs' whereabouts. When Emilio gets a chance to rest, he sits down and looks over to where the blank forms are and notices supplier consent forms. These forms are used by Resource Acquisition when they set up agreements with suppliers, usually before the disaster. If any of these get completed during a disaster, the yellow and pink copies need to be returned to Resource Acquisition. By making sure ESS responders get the forms they need and tracking and organizing all the completed forms, Emilio and Maria were able to help their ESS team make sure that families get the services they need, families and friends find each other, suppliers get paid, and important statistics are gathered and recorded.